My hope is that we have this conversation today and people really understand not only what a ketone is, but the ways that you can use it.
Ketogenic diet, that is mainly how we refer to endogenous ketones. So endogenous, endo, it's, if you want to think about it, as internal, and you are producing your own ketones. Exogenous ketones would be external.
The original ketone IQ was HVMN. Originally, it was for military use, right? How do we make these soldiers that are going overseas, they're in long, treacherous environments, be more impactful? But how do we do this with something that's light?
We got a $800,000 grant from CDNRP to look at TBI and midterm to long-term effect. However, we're waiting for the Congress to pass the budget before we can start the study. that look says everything.
Have you ever felt like you're doing all the right things for your health, but still struggling to optimize things like your energy, metabolism, and even thinking about your longevity? So what if the key isn't just about what you eat, but how your body actually uses the fuel? Well, today I'm going to be sitting down with Dr. Latt Mansor, a leading researcher in metabolic health and nutrition, and we're going to unpack the science behind ketones, how they fuel your body, impact brain function, and even influence long-term health. So whether you're an athlete looking for peak performance or someone navigating weight loss or just trying to sustain energy, which is how I feel throughout the day, this conversation will give you practical insights, but that are backed by science. We cover everything from how ketones affect cognitive function, their role in metabolic flexibility, and even groundbreaking research on their impact on things like heart health, inflammation, and sleep. Who knew? Dr. Mansor brings a rare combination of deep scientific knowledge and real-world application that makes this episode a must-watch. Welcome to the Gabby Reece Show. Let's go. All right, Latt Mansor, welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me.
How are you? Are you comfortable?
I'm comfortable.
We're trying to work this out with these seats.
Yeah, I think these are more comfortable.
Well, what happened was the bar stools, everybody was banging on the table. But I actually feel like I might need to just get a big table between us and then you can lean on it. Even though that's not great for you to lean your elbows on a table. And I don't mean for your manners. Apparently, it's not good for you. Yeah, there's some kind of functional structural. There's always something.
There's always something.
So I'm going to say that we can, in the words of I have a good friend, John, too, and he talks about transmuting things. So maybe that's one of the things. So before we dive deep into all things ketones and ketosis, an ongoing conversation, I haven't seen you. How long has it been since I've seen you?
I think a year and a half.
Has been? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you've done some transforming. And so I really just want to quickly ask you, what have you been doing? You said originally since you saw Justin and I, you lost 20 pounds, but you had maybe a little festivities over the new year and you gained 6 back. But what'd you do?
I found the fountain of youth. No, I'm just can you believe it?
It's called Asian blood, baby.
I just thought, and Asians at certain age you start reverse aging.
Yeah. That's what's happening.
I have been doing precision medicine and carb cycling and really tracking my macros for a year. And making sure that the journey that I was on was not of a transformative journey in terms of 2 months, I lose 20 pounds. It's not that kind of journey. I want to, for the long haul. And I'm like, okay, if I lose a pound a week, that's fine. If I plateau for 3 months, that's fine. And then keep going, trust the process, and making sure that the changes are sustainable. So that's the nutrition and the training part. And I'm also working with Dr. Florence Comite, whose podcast I'll be on, I think next month in New York. So she has been very kind to offer me her program, which is precision medicine. And they measured everything on my metabolic panel, my hormones panels, and identify what sort of nutrients I'm deficit in.
What showed up? Were you surprised by anything?
D? No, not really.
Everyone's vitamin D deficient.
I know.
Even Laird. Nobody's in the sun more than Laird.
And I stay away from the sun too, so I'm not surprised with that.
Yeah.
And I'm pale. My testosterone was not optimal. It was okay. It was 500, so it wasn't low. But then she was like, oh, it could use, a little bit boost as well. So
you're doing a cream or are you doing
I started
shots?
using HCG shots to begin with, and that gave me some good results. And then now I transferred over to TRT plus and clomiphene. So that has been going well so far. And then what else? I think lipid levels, absolutely, because of my background. So she was very concerned about my father's side background, which is, very high prevalence in cardiovascular disease, and my late dad died of stroke. So when she saw those lipid levels, even though I was living healthily, it was way beyond what the normal ranges are. So she recommended red yeast rice supplement, and that really brought it down about 50 points, my LDL.
And do you take it every day, or
I
do you
take it
cycle
every night.
off?
Every night.
Okay.
And that has been going on for a year, and now I cycle it off because I'm trying this new product. This guy who started this company, which has some form of like liposomal delivery that increase bioavailability. So I'm trying his product for like the next 3 months, and then remeasure and see if I can replicate the results or getting better results or actually have worse results. So we'll find out. So I'm just using myself as a science subject.
And you were talking about carbo, changing your sort of cycling your carbs.
Yes.
So 1 week kind of having normal amounts of carbs and then 1 week being restrictive?
It's more of a day. So I'll have low carb days for about 5 to 6 days, and I have one high carb day, and then switch over to low carb days. And that works wonders. And when I talk about high carbs, we're talking about 400 to 500 grams of carbs a day.
And what kind of carbs are you consuming?
I was recommended white rice and cereals because those are less
white rice.
White rice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like less bloating compared to like say potatoes and.
You have more bloating with potatoes?
Yeah.
Even a sweet potato?
Even sweet potato, because 100 grams of sweet potato only has 20 grams of carbs, right? The rest is fiber. So imagine 500 grams of carbs that you need to consume. You have to eat a lot of potatoes. The first time I did try sweet potatoes, and then my trainer was like, "What were you thinking?"
Really?
Actually, he's based here in Santa Monica, Jay Ferrugia.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
So
white rice.
Yeah.
And that also
very dense in carbs, and once if you want to get in the high amount of carbs, that's very good.
What else? What else? I cut you off. Sorry. White
So
rice and what else?
cereals.
Cereal.
Yeah.
What kind of cereal?
Who
Who eats cereal? Come on, Latt.
What do you mean? People.
What do you mean? You're not doing like it's Magic Spoon. I get it at
I know.
Erewhon.
All these colors. No, I'm just
Oh my
kidding.
gosh.
I'm kidding.
I like all these healthy cereals. I'm like, come on.
No, I think the one that I was recommended by my trainer was the Arrowhead organic wheat cereals.
Okay.
Wheat base.
Okay. So, we hear about like if I eat a vegetable or fruit, there's carbohydrate. So on your low 5-6 days, what is that looking like?
Yep, that's a great question because I'm looking at about 125 grams of carbs on my low carb day. So that will be sweet potatoes most of the time. So I have my sweet potatoes.
Yeah, and it's satisfying.
It's satisfying. It has the fiber and everything. Sometimes when I'm lazy, to do groceries and all that, I'll either do a small portion of rice or just fruits.
Okay.
Like especially if I'm looking at higher carb fruits like pineapples or mangoes. But that's my trainer kind of don't recommend that he wants me to consume more of the low glycemic end of the carbs, especially if I'm doing it right before workout or like right before bed. He doesn't want me to have that much of a
with the sugar.
With the sugar, yeah.
I feel like if you eat fruit, it's like really great right after training, but also isolated, like just fruit. And then, and then the tissue.
Not with the fats.
Right. And the tissue's open and it's sort of good to go and it's hydrating and all these things. So I'm just curious, do you notice anything with your mood on those days different?
Mood, not so much, but I definitely towards the 5th, 6th day of low carb, so what I do differently from my training, the lifting is the same, but on top of the training, I'm making sure that I have 10K steps per day. And because I work from home, I don't usually, commute to office. So I will get my 10K steps at the gym. After my lifting, I'll do cardio.
Oh.
So
how long does that take?
It's about 45 to an hour, 45 minutes to an hour.
Do you create a space between the lift and the 10,000 steps, or you just got to bang it all together?
Bang it all together.
Ooh.
But it's cardio zone 2, so I'm not doing high intensity. I do high intensity maybe once a week or twice a week.
Okay.
So during the 5th or 6th day of low carbs, when I do those cardio, I do feel the hypoglycemic feel. Do you know what I mean? The lightheadedness.
I want peanut butter when I feel like that.
Yeah.
Something happens, I'm just like, yo, give me some peanut butter.
I'm looking at the fridge at the gym. I'm looking at the bar with the
something I can
protein
shove
bars.
in my mouth with a lot of fat right away.
Yeah, you have that cravings.
Crazy.
So that is definitely the change in terms of the subjective feel. I don't notice any change in mood, probably just because I'm just too lazy to feel anything.
Could be cultural too. Just be stoic.
Always keep your feelings
stoic.
I was told growing up, keep your feelings to yourself. Do not express them.
I have a good friend, Aubrey. She's from the South, very polite. Mm-hmm. And I saw her at the grocery store one day, and she has 3 children. At the time, they were very young. And she was just, and the kids are climbing all over the cart and doing all this stuff. And I go, you're so amazing, like how, calm and everything. She's like, oh yeah, I'm crying on the inside. So
basically.
Yeah. So let's all joking aside, because now we're going to talk about ketones. The reason I want to talk about you losing weight is I think one of the things that I really appreciate about what you talk about, because we're going to get all, you talk about science and ketones in the body and all these things, but you're on a personal experimentation and quest for yourself based on your family's history to be as healthy as you can. Mm-hmm. So in a way, you have this dual approach of like, hey, I'm an everyday person and I'm exploring and I am having success in this place of being healthier. And I love how the new term of weight management, which is really weight loss, right? And so I just like to bring that up because not seeing you in a year and a half, you've made huge strides. And I know that's not easy. So that's really why I wanted to talk to you about that. Because I think sometimes when people think we do have set points, right? Our body gets to a set point and we go, this is just how I am or where I'm at. And you're a great reminder that, if you tweak a little of this and you're open-minded and you experiment, that you can always make progress.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate that, first and foremost. And secondly, as I've said it off camera as well, like you are one of the people who inspired me, to live healthy, live happy. Even yesterday, I was recording on another podcast with Chase Tuning. He said he just finished a breathing breath work with you, and he was singing praises about how down to earth, how humble you are, but yet very charismatic. So
is that another way of saying bossy? I like that. Thank you. Can you tell Laird that? It's funny. He's praising me because we did breathing. You weren't praising me after we trained together.
Right? Oh no, I was catching my breath then.
Like, she's awesome.
No, well, I love that workout. I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, should I message her?
You could have. How was it, Justin? It was kind of tough today.
Was it kind of tough?
I threw in a 16th station. I don't know if anybody realizes that. It was normally 15, but today we did 16.
The sneaky one.
And I played one of my daughter's EDM, right?
Yeah, we weren't used to it.
Like normally I play kind of rap, and today was electronic music, and it was just
so different.
Completely different vibe.
Wow.
I was feeling it though. Yeah.
All right. Next time I'm in town, I'm definitely coming back.
Yes. Okay. Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Wednesday, Fridays.
All right. Endogenous and exogenous ketones.
Yep.
Maybe just share with people first your background that gives you sort of the ability to talk about this stuff.
Great. And I like how the first time we met, we talked about metabolic health. Yes. It was very much like metabolism 101, ketone 101. And this is the follow-up episode talking about, okay, now people know what metabolism is. People know what metabolic health is. My background, I did an undergrad and master's in biotechnology. I've got my master's from Columbia University in New York, and then I got my PhD from University of Oxford in physiology, anatomy, and genetics. My thesis looked specifically into cardiac metabolism in hypoxia, in type 2 diabetes. So looking at how the heart would metabolize glucose versus fat and under certain circumstances when oxygen is low. And because of my passion, as you said, in health and metabolism, also for myself, having my mom's side being high prevalence in obesity and diabetes, and my late dad having stroke and cardiovascular disease, I became drawn to the cross-section between diabetes and cardiovascular disease. Mm-hmm. And because of that, I pursue that studies and that research. And Ketone IQ and HVMN gave me the avenue to really explore not only these different areas, but also providing a solution, which is the Ketone IQ product, which I truly believe in really providing that intervention in all these studies. And true enough, in the past, I would say 2 years, I've connected with all these different universities and different collaborators, and they are the one who are willing to use the product and not getting paid. They're using their own grant money. All I have to do is provide the products, and they are using Ketone IQ to solve multiple therapeutic areas, including sleep apnea, cardiovascular disease, specifically heart failure, TBI, and colorectal cancer. So I'm thrilled to have learn all these different areas, because if you think about it, a PhD is a very narrow area, and people need to really hone into that niche and specialization. But I have the privilege to learn about cancer, about heart failure, about TBI. Although I can't say that I'm an expert, but with regards to ketones, I can now say that, okay, I'm an expert at using ketones or investigating the effect of ketones on these therapeutic areas. So endogenous ketones and exogenous ketones. Shall I go straight there? Or I think that's a good background.
Actually, based on what you just said, it does make me wonder, is there anything that showed up that really surprised you that you learned from one of these groups doing these studies in ketones? So for people who don't know, being in ketosis, a keto diet is the longest studied nutritional plan, let's not call it a diet, because of epilepsy.
Yep.
And so it isn't a fad that started in 2010 where people are like, I'm keto and stinky. It's like, and then it's using, another fuel source basically for energy. So fat, basically, right? So, and most people, let's face it, it is very hard to get into ketosis, and nor do you want to stay in ketosis. I think it's about adaptability and using multiple fuel sources. Okay. So what people don't realize is that being in ketones were studied for epilepsy and helping with minimizing or even eliminating seizures. So this is a very researched and old space that people have in. Okay. But, now we live in a place where we've managed to even make how we eat kind of a religion and ideology, instead of being playful and experimenting for yourself and trying different things. And so now we're here when we talk about ketosis or ketones. And now you're saying, hey, they're looking at heart health, athletic performance, brain function, all these different areas. So I guess before we move on, what I'm curious is, as somebody who really looks at this space, is there anything that has shown up in these studies where you're like, whoa, I would have never thought that was an application?
There are quite a few, actually, because if you think about our first episode, we talked about ketone being the preferred fuel, which is still being established, that, right? The brain prefers the ketones. And when I was in Denmark for a heart failure cardiovascular symposium, they actually created a tracer tracing ketone when they inject it from the finger, and throughout the body, every 5 seconds or so, measure where it goes. And majority of it goes into the heart and the brain, which is super interesting, right? So at that point, we only knew ketone as a very efficient fuel. But little did I know that all these different therapeutic areas, especially with the heart failure and recovery and all of that, there is one common theme, which is the increase in oxygen delivery. And they measured the vasodilation and they measured the cardiac output. And it seems like in conditions where it's low oxygen or there is some form of occlusion that stops oxygen being delivered efficiently, ketones are able to help. And in the study in KU Leuven and in Belgium, they managed to measure endothelin, which is a signaling molecule that vasoconstricts. And ketones inhibit that so that the blood vessels can relax and more blood flow can occur, and therefore delivering more oxygen. So that's one part that I was surprised about, because I never knew that was so profound that it has a significant improvement, especially in heart failure patients, for example. The other property would be other signaling properties, like the colorectal cancer study in University of Pennsylvania. They're running a bigger study now. They're already published in Nature. And it seems like ketone specifically has an effect on a HOPX protein, which then inhibits the division of colorectal cancer cells. And I say colorectal cancer specifically because different cancer cells behave differently. So I can't generalize and say that it works for all cancers. But colorectal cancer specifically, it does stop the division of the cells. So right now the study is being done in UPenn. I believe they're still in a recruitment process. If you go to clinicaltrial.gov, actually the links I sent you is a clinicaltrial.gov link. They are looking at using Ketone IQ as a prophylaxis for high-risk individuals who can develop colorectal cancer.
This podcast has been brought to you by Bon Charge. So Bon Charge has a lot of amazing products, but today I'm going to share with you their infrared sauna blanket. And it's so incredible the way it heats the body up directly, right? You know, you're in it like a little burrito rather than the air around you. And there's a ton of benefits. So you can sweat out toxins, elevate your heart rate, boost your metabolism, soothe sore muscles. I know that's really how we use it. And so much more. It really even can help with your sleep. Wonderful things about it. It sets up in under a minute, so it's not hard to deal with. It heats up really quickly, and it's very easy to clean and store. So when you're done, you just put it away. When you want it, if it's spontaneous, you find you have a little window, you can just grab it and go. And they have a great offer for you. So I know you're going to love the benefits from Bon Charge's infrared sauna blanket as much as we do. I give it to Laird when he goes to cold water places to surf. And for a limited time, my listeners will get 15% off when you order from boncharge.com, and you can use my exclusive promo code Gabby at checkout, Gabby, and you'll get 15% off, but that's site-wide. They have a lot of really great products. You'll also get free shipping and a 12-month warranty. So now you can go to boncharge.com, boncharge.com. Don't forget to use Gabby at checkout, Gabby, for 15% off your entire order. And the other thing that's really, really important for me about this sauna blanket is maybe being curious about saunas. We all know there's a ton of benefits. Maybe you don't have room, it's expensive. This is a great way to get into the game at boncharge.com. And don't forget to use the code Gabby for your savings. This podcast has been brought to you by Puri. I know, like me, if you do something every day, you go, hey, I better get the good stuff. Well, that's why I'm really excited to share with you about Puri. Certainly, I try to eat clean and prioritize high quality ingredients. That's a given. But it's not just about the food we eat. It's also about the supplements we take. And so I've been thinking a lot about how important omega-3s are. I've been thinking about it for probably 20 years. And it's really crucial for things like your heart, brain, and eyes. There's a ton of research behind them. And I'm always excited to talk to you about products that are high quality, and that's Puri's O3 Ultra Pure Fish Oil. This is a whole new level of quality when it comes to fish oils. First of all, they use only small fish, which naturally have lower levels of contaminants, but it doesn't stop there. Every single batch is certified clean and third-party tested by the Clean Label Project for over 200 different contaminants, including things like heavy metals and pesticides. So each bottle comes with a QR code on it, and you can scan it and see the test results for yourself of that specific batch. So Puri is an extremely transparent company, and that's exactly what you want. So I take Puri O3 so many times throughout the week. I like to cycle mine in and out, and I love knowing that I'm getting a potent dose of EPA and DHA, and it's certified sustainable by Friends of the Sea. So I have a great offer that Puri's offering to you. You can get an amazing 20% off off a one-time purchase, or if you choose the already discounted subscription, you will get almost a third off the price. So that's 2 different offers. So it's only available when you visit my exclusive URL, puree.com/Gabby. Don't forget to use my promo code Gabby, Gabby at checkout. You'll get 20% off a one-time purchase, or you can get almost a third off if you're doing the subscription at PUORI.com/Gabby. Don't wait. Use promo code Gabby at checkout. Puree.com/Gabby. What is happening, like from a fourth, sixth grade level?
Yeah.
Is it that oxygen component?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with the oxygen component. I think that is specifically the signaling property or the direct effect of ketone and the interaction with the protein that can inhibit the cell division. Oh. With the oxygen, it's more for recovery, for heart failure, and also for the sleep apnea. We've got a collaboration with Johns Hopkins. So sleep apnea is when people have obstructive airway during sleep and they don't have enough oxygen into the body. And over time, the lack of oxygen increases risk of cardiovascular disease, obesity, and mortality. So what they have found is that they initially used keto diet, and the diet itself increased their carbon dioxide sensitivity and increased their oxygen saturation overnight. And they thought that, okay, it could be the ketone. So right now we are running a pilot study, as well as putting in we already have a grant put in for an NIH grant with Johns Hopkins looking at ketone IQ and sleep apnea. So that could be the oxygen component. It increases either oxygen sensitivity or oxygen delivery. And you know, there are still a lot more research, especially when it comes to the mechanism of action. Because if you think about science, yes, we can run all these big human studies and we can see all these big changes and improvements. But then if you ask, okay, so what happens? How does it happen? Then we have to go back to the basic science studies. Okay, we need to use animal models or cell models so that we can go in and see what exactly is happening in the cell, on the cell level, on the blood vessel levels, on the organ levels.
Are they taking, like, you have the shots here, and for people who have never taken, for example, Ketone IQ, and I joke about this a lot, like, it doesn't taste good. No. But by the way, people do shots of alcohol, and guess what? It doesn't taste good, right? They have a goal in mind, and they're going to get there, and so are they consuming it the same way? Are they doing shots? Or is it being administered in a different way? And is there more of it? I'm just curious in the studies.
That's a great question. They are taking orally, so same thing in a shot, but they are taking more of it. They are body weight match dosing. So around 0.3 grams per kilogram of body weight. So if I'm, say, 60 kilograms, which I'm not. I wish if I'm 60 kilograms, I would take 20 grams of Ketone IQ. And one shot has about 10 grams. So two shots.
Does it make it like diarrhea or anything? Because when I think about that taste, I think somehow you're going to pay somewhere else.
No. They haven't recorded any sort of significant GI issues.
Really?
I've had a study that just got published that uses 0.5 gram per kilogram. So if you're like 70 kilo, you're taking 3.5 shots. And they have only mild like GI discomfort.
That's not bad.
So,
all right, athletic performance. Well, we'll get into that. I'll get into dosage.
Yeah.
So let's establish right at the top endogenous versus exogenous ketones, so people really can follow. Because my hope is that we have this conversation today and people really understand not only what a ketone is, but how the ways that you can use it.
So as you mentioned earlier, ketogenic diet, that is mainly how we refer to endogenous ketones. So endogenous, it's, if you want to think about it, as internal, and you are producing your own ketones from converting fats within the liver into ketones. Exogenous ketones would be external, so X and X. So that would be an easy way to remember. Exogenous sources, it's when you take external source of anything. Exogenous proteins, exogenous fats, exogenous glucose. It's when you consume directly what the substance is. So Ketone IQ is a form of exogenous ketones. Now the differences is that endogenous ketones cannot occur simultaneously with glucose. i.e., if you have glucose in your blood, you will have higher insulin, and insulin shuts down ketone production. So you have to be on a very strict diet. And as you said earlier, Some people find it very hard to adhere to such diet for a long time. And some people also may develop certain disorder if they are on it for too long because their bodies are just craving the other substrates. So to go around that, exogenous ketones is a very good solution to the people who are like that, because exogenous ketones will bring your blood ketone level up regardless of your diet. So even if you have glucose and insulin in your body, you still have access to all the ketones. So your brain, your heart will have access to the ketones. And that's where a new paradigm emerged, where in our body, we now have fats, ketones, proteins, and glucose to be used for energy purposes or for any purposes or signaling. Because if you think about it as well, your body is a very, very efficient machine. It will always choose the most efficient pathway, the shortest pathway, and the most efficient fuel to use according to your activity. If you're doing anaerobic exercise, it will always choose glucose. If you're doing an aerobic exercise, it will switch over to fat oxidation. And when ketones are present, we have seen in many studies, it amplifies the effect of these other substrates and improve their performance, either by glycogen sparing effect, which allows which allows you to go further because your glycogen stores are lasting longer, or even an analgesic effect where it numbs your brain from feeling the pain of high intensity anaerobic exercises.
Are you doing that right now? Are you numbing the pain?
I'm numbing. What pain is there?
It's so interesting.
I'm numbing my nervousness talking.
Do you get nervous?
No.
No.
I mean, sometimes. I think nervousness is a bit off topic. I think nervousness is a sign of you caring.
And it's a good thing. I always think it's the right state of mind. Let's say, for example, public speaking, and people go, I get nervous. It's like, yeah, that's the right state of mind. You're alert. You're sort of on your toes, as long as it doesn't make you freeze and forget what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So the ketones, the exogenous ketones don't provide a conflict in any way with your natural substrates already that exist in the fuel sources that you use in your body.
No, it does not. It does not produce any form of conflict. It does alter to a certain extent because your body now recognizes that, okay, I've got more efficient fuel, so I'm going to dial down lipolysis. I'm going to dial down the mobilization of fatty acids for that short amount of time while you have ketones. And then when your ketones are used up, that's when it switches back over to your fats, to your glucose, and all of that. So, and again, I want to recognize, I want to note that metabolism is never a straight line. It's always in a flux. So your body is always metabolizing glucose, fats, ketones all at the same time, but just at different rates, depending on your activity. So when you have ketones, it may dial the fat down, maybe dial the glucose up if you're doing an aerobic exercise, and then the ketones sort of come in between and increases that productivity because you are numbing the pain so you can push further, but then you're using more glucose because you're outputting more power.
Right.
Yeah.
When would the ketones help you burn more fat? Under what environment?
Under environment where...
I'm asking for a friend.
It's under another environment where you are already on a keto diet for weight loss. So because people go on keto diet so that they can utilize their own fat stores and create ketones and burn fat in that way. So what studies have shown is that when people take ketones, you are upregulating all the enzymes that are related to ketone metabolism. So even though that short period of time after you've taken exogenous ketones, it may slow down that fat burning process, but you're upregulating the efficiency of ketone metabolism. And as soon as you finish that in a few hours, you switch back to your endogenous ketones, and then you're much more efficient in burning fat. So that's one way. Second way is it will help in your calorie deficit in weight loss, because ketones have shown to have effect on hunger hormones like leptin and ghrelin. And because of that, people have experienced appetite suppression after they've taken exogenous ketones. So overall, then they will eat less, and help with their weight loss journey. Right now, we are completing a study on appetite suppression specifically and looking at ghrelin, leptin, peptide YY, and overall calorie consumption at the University of British Columbia. Hopefully, we'll finish by middle of this year, 2025, and publish by the third quarter.
It's amazing. So HVMM, which is sort of the original company of Ketone IQ, was this originally, it was for military use, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we make these soldiers that are going overseas, they're in long, treacherous environments, be more impactful? But how do we do this with something that's lightweight and easy for them to do? And so the original Ketone IQ was HVMN. And I've joked a lot about having that big bottle in the back of my fridge. And you'd open the fridge and this was a long time ago. This is 7-8 years ago. And this was before anybody really did, not many of us understood. But it came out and everyone was like, oh, ketones, So it would sit in the back of my fridge and I would open it and I'd be like, not today. Because the taste of that one, and it was much stronger.
Yeah.
There were more ketones, per serving.
Yeah, 25 grams.
Yeah. And it was for those guys.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And I remember just being, and you think, oh, I made it cold in the fridge, it's going to taste better,
No,
every which way. So it's originally was for military to go, farther, longer, faster with something that's very small and lightweight. Is there any other applications for the military group? Was it, if you're sleep deprived, was there a lot of things in there? What other things was that supporting for their performance specifically?
Great question. In fact, right now, we've got a full proposal that is currently under review by the DoD with 4 different universities, I think 3 different universities, Washington State University, Florida State University, and University of North Georgia. And we are collaborating a huge grant application here. And we're looking at performance specifically for the military population using Ketone IQ. So we'll be looking at sleep deprivation with the Washington State University and measure sleep quality, recovery, and all of that, especially long journeys and long missions. And we'll be looking at performance as well with FSU, and with University of North Georgia, they have all the simulations and all these different physical tests that we'll be doing from both cognitive and physical performance side. So we are giving a whole package on how Ketone IQ, because of its function in improving your brain function, as well as improving oxygen delivery, which all your organs will need oxygen delivery, and efficient oxygen delivery at that will also improve performance. Then we are now measuring the outcomes and the output of these military and soldiers. What would it look like?
If somebody is, and I know this is a hard question to answer, but I'm going to try to figure out a way. Because if I have a military person, they're highly trained, they have efficiencies in their body that a civilian doesn't. Mm-hmm. But let's say you are somebody who is in the military, you have your vehicle, your body is a well-trained machine, but you're sleep deprived. How long is the impact going to last someone in that kind of situation? Like, what's the difference? It's even when you eat food, right? When you're tired, your glucose spike can go way up from a food that doesn't impact you the same way when you're not tired. Mm-hmm. So let's say I'm a well-trained military guy who's not fatigued. How long, what's the benefit of a shot of a ketone for me versus when I'm tired?
I would say the effect would last for at least 6 hours from what we know in our internal studies. 6 hours, it's when we can measure your blood ketone levels above 1 millimolar. And I think that can easily be measured because we are proposing the optimal level of blood ketone levels to be around 1 to 2.5 in order to get that therapeutic, that benefits. And obviously that range depends on what sort of benefit. If you're talking about just cognitive, anything above 1 should be fine. But we're talking about like cognitive and physical performance, we're looking at above 2 for good 4 to 6 hours. And that's the beauty of exogenous ketones as well, because you can always top up.
That's what I was going to ask. It's like, is there a limit? And obviously you're not going to go on and on, but if I took double the amount, do I, for that duration of time, get double the benefit?
Yes, it's dose dependent.
Or is it better to, okay, I've had 3 hours, I take a little more. Where does it best serve you?
So it is dose dependent, but you want to take the optimal dosing, right? So if you're doing the body weight match dosing, you say take two shots, that's your optimal dosing. It's not that you're doubling what other people are doing because other people are doing one shot, but you're just taking your optimal dose. So then you work out and whatnot, and then 2 hours later, you can top up another 2 shots, and that will keep you going. So we've had, for example, a ultra endurance athlete who won the Badwater last year, Ashley, and she ran for, I believe, 22 hours, and she had 12 shots in that 22 hours. And she's tiny.
Would she sort of go longer up top when she was fresh and then start to dose a little more frequently as she got tired and fatigued deeper into the hours of performance?
You can do that, or you can have the same interval. So I believe that that particular race, she did an interval of 2 hours, which I recommended.
Okay.
Yeah.
A householder now. So you have the military guys who, how does an everyday person use it? So, for example, everybody's different, right? Like, because there's brain function, there's, ATP, there's all kinds of different nuanced things around ketones. So we're going to throw out a few scenarios. I'm a householder. I eat a good diet. I don't have a keto diet, but I have a good diet. And it's 3:00. I'm going down. Everybody starts going down, right? It's that after lunch sag. I don't want to take caffeine. I don't want to, hurt my sleep on the other end. What's the way to take this that it benefits me the most if it's just that scenario?
I would just take one shot.
And that's it.
At that point, and that's it. And that will keep you going for the rest of the day, at least for a few hours, to keep you productive. Especially it's right in the middle of the day, right? And it's at 3, you want to finish at, 6, whatever. You need to finish your productivity, clean the house or whatever, until then, or even have a workout, right? And if you feel like, okay, you finish your work at 5 or 6 and you decide to go work out, you can always top up another shot before your workout to have that boost of extra energy, because you already, because think about it, like one shot has 70 calories, so you can burn that off quite quickly. But the effect it has on your brain, the signaling effect that we're now starting to see in a lot of these studies, are much longer lasting compared to the energy that it provides.
How long till you can feel it? 10 or 15 minutes?
10 to 15 minutes, yeah.
I feel like that's when I feel it.
That's exactly
Right?
what I tell people, 10 to 15 minutes. I usually take it about 15 minutes to 20 minutes before podcast, and it works beautifully. I will also take it right before bed.
Yeah, that's another thing. We talked about this a little bit, but you were saying that there were some studies that said that it could actually even be helpful for sleep. It's almost counterintuitive, yeah.
And it's almost very confusing for people. That's why we never market it as a sleep aid. But there are studies which are showing that, and we have a pilot study in Johns Hopkins, as I said earlier, on sleep apnea, and it improves like sleep
So is
quality.
it the oxygen part?
It could be the oxygen part, but it also has anxiolytic effect, that's relaxation effect on the GABA pathway. So that has been published, I believe, by Dom D'Agostino. And then on top of that,
are you coupling it with any other supplement for maximum benefit for the sleep part?
Yeah, I personally couple it with my HVMN used to have this product which we discontinued, which is a sleep aid. It has magnesium glycinate, L-glycinate, and melatonin, and L-theanine, four ingredients in it.
You guys are going hard.
Yeah, so I couple 2 shots of ketones with those. Knocked me out, and I have beautiful dreams. A lot of people told me when they take ketones before bed, they have very vivid dreams. And yesterday, Chase, when he was interviewing me, and he's like, it makes sense because usually people dream when they're in REM sleep,
right?
And if the dreams are, longer and more vivid, and that means you are in REM more frequent and for longer. And I didn't even think about
Wait,
that.
so magnesium, L-theanine, what is it?
Magnesium glycinate, L-theanine, L-glycinate, and melatonin. And melatonin is only 1 milligram.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the L-theanine is like 100.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 2 shots.
And 2 shots.
I wake up in the morning. This is a scenario. I have my coffee already, my caffeine. Okay. And for me personally, I have fat. So I have fat for my brain. I have caffeine for my body. And then within an hour, let's say I'm going to train. Would you ever take a shot of a ketone, some type of ketone prior to? Let's say I was feeling good.
Yeah.
Would there be any benefit to just having a shot?
Yeah, I would say so. My pre-workout stack would be, I love this. I'm not even paid by them, but boba tea protein. So it tastes like boba tea. It tastes like bubble tea.
Okay.
So I have the matcha one, which has actual matcha in it. So it has caffeine, about 75 milligrams, I believe, like very low amount. So I'll have that pre-workout with a shot of ketones, and then I go work out. So that's my pre-workout stack. My sleep stack is the L-theanine, magnesium glycinate, and L-glycinate, and 2 shots of that. And then for cognitive, it's just straight up ketones for like podcasts and work and whatnot.
Right. And it doesn't make you jittery or fast, or I don't find any of that. The thing for me that I'm always trying to work out, because your body does make it naturally in a very specific environment. There's really no other way to get it except in this exogenous way. I think for a lot of people, this part is the dance, right?
Yep.
Like, well, is it a chemical? Is it bad for me? Like, it's the same with methylene blue.
Yep.
And I'd love to know if you guys are doing any studies combined with methylene blue and
not at the moment.
ketone. Why wouldn't, I mean.
I would love to. If you know any researchers who are interested, I would love to have the conversation.
I just sometimes when I think about it, I'm like, get crazy. You know, like,
why not? Like we've been thinking about like using ketone and psilocybin, like psychedelic.
Hell yeah.
Because that increases brain energy demand, and this is brain energy supply. So there is synergy in there. But back to your question, the clarification though.
Yeah, it's just trying to remedy this, because I'm trying to always work it out.
Right.
I'm always trying to get as much as I can from things that come in nature. But I've also said, listen, we live so unnaturally in certain ways that I'm doing all these weird things just to almost be in homeostasis or even. So on that front, are we going to find out in 20 years, like, oh, guess what? What's the downside? Because this is a.
I hope not, and I don't think so, because, like you said, ketogenic diet has been around for more than 100 years.
Yes.
So, and we evolutionarily are able to produce ketones ourselves, and it's the bioidentical molecule. It's the same thing that is being converted from ketone IQ to BHB, is beta hydroxybutyrate, which is what your body recognizes as that efficient fuel source. So I don't think we will find out, because, as you said, it's not a specific chemical that's unnatural to the body, or it's specifically blocking certain receptors or certain pathways to make you feel a certain way. For example, like caffeine, it blocks the adenosine receptors to make you not feel fatigue. So that is specific intervention within that metabolic pathway to make you feel a certain way. This one is a natural molecule that your body already recognizes and can use readily for energy. So I don't see the risk of it developing into that area. So back to the sleep though. So 3 things, right? 1 is the REM, improved REM. 2, it could be the oxygen delivery. And 3 could be the relaxation on the GABA pathway. So that's why I said, this, even though it's supposed to give you energy, when I take it for sleep, I take it right before bed, not like 2 hours before, because then your brain might be too active, right? You take it right before bed. So, even in your sleep, you need energy. Like, it's not that we go to sleep like we don't need energy. Like, I know we should stop eating like 3-4 hours before bed, but our body still uses the energy, right? Your brain, while you're asleep, is consolidating the memories and the learnings throughout the day. Your body is secreting growth hormone, and your muscles are recovering from your workout and building all these protein blocks and reconstituting your muscle fibers, right? So it's still at work and it still needs the energy. The point is, you need to tell your body that is the mode that you're going into, and then ketone just acts as the fuel.
Yep, that makes sense to me. Yeah, that's the tone in which you're doing it.
Yeah.
So brain protection. I'm just going to ask a couple scenarios, and maybe we can just talk about ketones' impact on these certain areas. So on the brain, how do ketones impact? We talked about oxygen and certain other things.
Yep.
But
so one study specifically, they looked at the interaction between brain regions, and when they're on ketogenic diet for a week versus ketone for just a dose of ketone, they saw an improvement, an increased interaction between brain regions via functional MRI. So basically, your different parts of your brain are talking to each other more when they're on ketones. And when they're talking to each other more, they're more connected. And this sort of network stability decreases as we age. And that increases the risk of Alzheimer's, dementia, and all of that. So that's how it becomes more neuroprotective against these diseases. And then on top of that, we can look at traumatic brain injury and concussion. And it provides an energy source that could remedy the deficit in glucose metabolism that we often see in these scenarios. Because what we see is that in a short-term acute setting, when you have a concussion, your brain upregulates glucose metabolism. So it's showing that it needs a lot of energy. So what happens then if your body does not have enough glucose, or if you have insulin resistance that you can't use glucose properly? So ketones provide an alternative fuel, an auxiliary fuel, to make sure that your brain gets enough energy to remedy that damage and also to prevent further long-term damage. So that's sort of an overarching theme around that. And that is why we are also partnering with the Naval Health Research Center down in San Diego. And we got a $800,000 grant from CDNRP to look at TBI and midterm to long-term effect, and looking at like eye coordination and balance and all of that. However, we're waiting for the Congress to pass the budget before we can start the study. that looks says everything.
You know what's funny to me? It's like, it's only $800,000. You know what I mean? It's $800,000.
Yeah.
They piss money away, and it's like, take care of these guys, the military. I'd be curious to know if you'd ever combine it with like hyperbaric or anything like that.
That would be really interesting, especially on the oxygen part.
Yeah,
that would be super interesting.
Okay, so
what if are we doing a study together?
I would crash test. I mean, I'll volunteer. Laird, whatever. Justin, I got a couple kids, whatever. No, but let's say I have a hyperbaric here, a real one. Would you do a shot before or after? And you can't tell me what to do. But let's say you were experimenting and having fun yourself. Would you mess around with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're reckless. I see that.
I mean, I wouldn't say reckless. I mean, you live once.
I'm just
kidding.
The science. I'm totally kidding.
You know the science, and you're like, there's only one way to find out.
Right, but would you do the shot right before and get in and see?
I would do it before.
Be interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to get smarter.
Hey, I mean,
no, I'm kidding.
Imagine if we figure out by doing that, we can extend the percentage of the brain that we can use. Imagine that.
I need it. You don't. I do. Now, on a sport that's more explosive, like I'm a track...
CrossFit, sprinter, MMA.
No, because MMA has a duration, more like a short spurt, like swimming, track and field, like, okay, 100 yards. Do you use it? Can you use it there?
Yes, you can. We've got Michael Andrew using it. And we just published a paper with University of North Georgia. That's the first ever in history research looking at exogenous ketones and anaerobic exercise. So we made the participants do a Wingate test. So they go on a stationary bike, they sprint for as hard as they could for 10 seconds, then rest for 30. Do that 5 times. And we measure the power, the velocity or the cadence. We measure the fatigue index, and the participants who are on ketone IQ, they've got improved power, so increased power, increased average power and peak power, increased cadence, and decreased fatigue index.
Is this oxygen?
It could be oxygen. It could be also the analgesic effect on the brain, like the caffeine, like you feel less painful, because the whole point of anaerobic is the pain and the fatigue localized in that muscle area. And if you feel quote unquote less pain, you feel like you can push more, and therefore you do push more and you feel less fatigued. So it could be the pain, it could be a combination of the oxygen delivery for sure.
Yeah,
because if you are already increasing blood flow, increasing vasodilation, and oxygen delivery to these muscles, less lactic acid will be formed, right? And in the respiratory exchange ratio, we also see that these participants are dialing back metabolism towards fatty acid. It's still anaerobic, it's still above 100, but it's significantly less than those who are not on ketones. Not on ketones, they are fully functional on glucose. So maybe then, because they're dialing back, they're producing less lactate. They're relying less on that glycolytic pathway, which produces lactic acid and induces that pain, and therefore they can push further. That's actually a very interesting point, which wasn't written in that paper. Then you brought it up. So.
That is interesting. Would it help with raising teenagers as a parent? Like they come in, you just take a shot and you don't feel the pain.
You don't feel the pain.
Much.
You know what? Have you tried?
Is there anything that you guys have experimented with coupling with a supplement with a ketone prior to an athletic performance? Or have you just isolated to the ketones that you can talk about?
Yeah. We've isolated so far because it's easy to confound the results if we mix it. So especially with supplements that are well established, like for example, creatine, right? I would think creatine would have a good synergistic effect, both on the cognitive side and the physical side. But if we add creatine, then people might say, well, it's the creatine, it's not the ketones.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we try to do isolated sort of experiments, but not to say any of our athletes have not stacked them before. So I've seen a lot of different stack. Like for example, I stacked it with a small amount of caffeine because I'm very sensitive to caffeine before my workout, for example. Some people would stack it with pre-workout, like L-citrulline and all the, the whole stack and do their workout. It's just that there isn't a study specifically that looked at that protocol and measured the results.
Got it. Metabolic health.
Yes.
Maybe we can just we talked in depth the last time about it, but maybe I just want to kind of visit a few of these scenarios so people have a bigger understanding of how ketones or exogenous ketones work in all these different environments.
So I think a refresher of metabolic health. Last time we spoke about metabolic flexibility, of how efficient your body is in using different fuels at different times, depending on what is most efficient at that point. Mm-hmm. Sprinting versus endurance versus you just sitting down and trying to work. And how exogenous ketones would play into that would be providing the option for your body to use a more efficient fuel. Whether or not your body will use it will depend on your body's efficiency as well as what activity you're doing. But most importantly, I think the two main benefits that are well established of exogenous ketones, which are the brain benefit, the cognitive function, the focus, as well as the increased blood flow and oxygen delivery. Mm-hmm. Those two, no matter what you are doing, you will benefit from those. Because even if you're, exercising, you will still use your brain. Like you have to focus, you go cycling, you have to be aware of your surroundings, all that stuff, right? And obviously increased oxygen blood flow would be good for your heart, your muscles, your brain. So in those contexts, it would be good for those activities, but over the long run would also affect your metabolic health, right? Because if you're being active, if you are being consistent and you feel better, you will not feel like, open the fridge, not today, right? It's not that sort of scenario. You're like, I'm looking forward to this because I feel good doing it.
Yeah. And what do they say? 94% of us are metabolically
It's already
dysfunctional.
94.
I think
Last time was the 90.
huh?
It's
Was
already
it?
94 now.
Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe it's 93. I think we're 93%
Oh,
of
wow.
Americans are metabolically dysfunctional.
It was 88 not too long ago.
I don't know. Justin's going to tell us right now. Are there any what anti-aging?
Effect.
Yeah. I mean, there's the brain part. We've talked about that.
Yes.
Which for me is way more important than, I mean, listen, if you could somehow market this as a beauty product, you'd really be slaying. But
I'll be slathering it. I'll be slathering it on my face. I'll be bathing in
But
it.
I
Pour it
guess-
all over my bathtub.
I guess anti-aging would be just all the other benefits that we've already talked about.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Inflammation.
Insulin resistance.
Yeah.
You know, like the weight loss. I think weight loss is a big part of it, right?
Yeah.
Because you age a lot when you are of a unhealthy weight.
Yeah.
Because it affects the overall metabolism and age your biological age quite a bit.
What about inflammation?
Inflammation, it has been shown to be anti-inflammatory.
How does that work? Is it the blood flow just moving things around, or?
It could be that, but it has a direct effect on NLRP3 inflammasome. So specific to a inflammatory pathway, which is very interesting. So we're going into the realm of ketone as a signaling molecule rather than ketone as a fuel. So ketone having a direct effect on, say, insulin receptor, or like having a direct effect on DNA, which it does. So they call it beta hydroxybutyrylation. It's same as methylation of.
How do you remember this stuff?
I mean, I get paid to do that.
Okay, say that word again.
Beta hydroxybutyrylation.
Wow.
So beta hydroxybutyric is BHB.
Yes.
Is the ketone. So you just add relation at the end. Easy, right? I mean, English is not my first language.
I know that. I know.
Now, if I can say that in all the different languages now, that's the different
Then
level.
I would, yes. So is there any scenario that people shouldn't take ketones or take a product like Ketone IQ?
I would say not to take ketone. I think ketone is safe for all situations and people. But there are certain situations where you might want to either ask your doctor or monitor when you take ketones. So one example is if you have high risk of hypoglycemia, because ketones have shown to decrease your blood glucose level. So for people who are diabetic or insulin resistant, great. You have ketones after you have food, their blood glucose actually drop, like up to 50 points. We've seen it. Wow. And Dr. Jonathan Little at University of British Columbia published quite a few papers on that and the effect of ketones in blood glucose decrease. So if you are, skinny and you always have low sugar, you want to be careful because you don't want your blood glucose to drop too much, and you want to monitor your blood glucose, especially for the first few times you take exogenous ketones. So that's one scenario. The second scenario, I would say, pregnant women and all of that, you might want to check with your doctor and all of that.
I mean, yeah, I've said this a few times. Prenatal vitamins will say, if you're pregnant, check with your doctor, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
What if a pregnant woman took ketones?
I don't think there's going to be.
Their kid comes out jacked.
I mean, the kid is primarily ketogenic anyway because they're on the breast milk, and that's very ketogenic. That's high fat and no sugar, or like very little lactose.
My days of that shop is closed for me, but I would have totally experimented with that.
Most infants are ketogenic. Or in ketosis, they spend the time in ketosis. And that's also very important because neurodevelopment in infants have been shown to really use ketones as building blocks. I found out this by interviewing Dr. Tommy Wood. I think you met him, no?
I feel like I have.
I feel like you might have interviewed him. Dr. Tommy Wood, he was the one who told me that babies actually use ketones as building blocks because it can bypass the blood-brain barrier and enter the brain and use building blocks to reconstitute fatty acids that helps help neuron or brain cells formation. Because obviously we need a lot of fatty acids to build, the cell membrane and all of that. Mm-hmm. But fatty acids cannot bypass the blood-brain barrier. So ketones are what going through as building blocks and then reconstitute into fatty acids and then build those neurons and brain cells.
Now there's liquid ketones and there's powder.
Yes.
What is there a difference there? Do we know about that? Like, I was just curious.
I think it's just a form of delivery, to be honest. I think powdered form is just ketone sprayed onto a carrier that allows dry weight or a drier form to be stored. Maybe it increases shelf life. I don't know. We don't do powdered form.
Yeah.
We're looking at different technologies now, like maybe like increasing bioavailability, but I don't think there is difference so far in terms of powdered versus liquid, especially when it comes to bioavailability and delivery. I don't think there is a difference. No, but it depends on the dose as well. Like, I don't know how much are you getting in the powdered form versus, 10 grams in one shot of Ketone IQ.
I was curious because when you were talking about maybe kind of impacting your hunger a little bit, I was thinking if somebody, I think people have obviously they have a lot of stress in their life. And we also are eating a lot of foods that I think make us overeat. I think it's pretty normal given all the ingredients that are in the food. I can't help but think if an hour before lunch, like 11:30, 11 o'clock, whatever time people have lunch, if I did a shot of this, would it maybe help me eat a more contained amount of food and not overeat? I know I'm not asking you to make a declaration, but I'm just saying, like, thinking of it as a tool where usually that's the time people want to snack, right? Their breakfast is worn off. They have enough stress in their day that's about the time they would like to hit food or something to kind of curb that stress.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that would be an interesting time to take it that would also sort of buffer lunch, the amount of what you would need at lunch.
Yeah, I can confidently declare this as well because we have data to show that, and both anecdotal and study data. Study data show that it has effect on ghrelin, so ghrelin increases the hunger. So we know that, and then anecdotally, people feel less cravings and people feel less hungry throughout the day when they have Ketone IQ. So they will, be able to curb their need to snack per se. I personally use it when I'm on low carb days because I'm only consuming like 1,700 calories. So it's obviously very low for a person my size. And it's usually fine. Excuse me. It's usually fine during the day. But the problem that I have is about 3 to 4 hours post dinner where I need to go to bed. That's when the hunger comes in and the snackish feeling comes in. So because I take it for pre-bed for my sleep, that 2 shots that works to improve my sleep also works as a appetite suppression and appetite curb to not snack.
What do you think that is? Because we don't need the calories. We're bored. What is that? What do you think that thing is that we do before bed?
I think it's the body's condition.
It's just habitual.
Habitual. I think it's habitual.
I guess we've just hardwired to get food whenever we can, right?
It's
the biology,
availability, and abundance.
Yeah, before you'd just be like, hey, the fire's out, just go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. Now it's like, hey, the fridge is open and it's stocked up.
I heard a great thing of before we had fire, when we'd eat, the amount of calories it took to eat the raw meat was more than you got from the meat.
Yeah. So people are all in shape, right? Always calorie deficit.
Have you ever seen, it's kind of astounding when you look in the 1960s or even 70s, like if you'll see like a sporting event or something and you look at all the people and they're all thin. It's an interesting thing, this abundance.
It is.
That's the thing is I don't ever get angry at the way it is. I don't think that that's the way, but it's trying to get people to understand you've got to navigate it. It's not going to happen easily for you. It's not set up that way any longer, but you've just got to figure out the way to navigate it. Was there because you have been on this personal quest, was there any habit that you really had to wrestle to the ground that you've been successful at, and how did you do it?
I have to really go against my personality of having to excel in everything or having to go hard or go home, because
Or to be perfect.
trying to be perfect. Like growing up in a developing country in Malaysia, I wanted to make it internationally. I wanted to compete for Malaysia, like representing Malaysia, competing in an international arena. And therefore I need to be the best of my country and really go out there and show that I can do this and make my family proud and make my people proud, right? And when I go through my personal journey, I realize that mentality may do more harm than good, because there will be days where I'll drop off the wagon, fall off the wagon. I will fall off the routine. I'll have sleep deprivation because I've been traveling, or I can't lift as much because I had an injury. And in the beginning, I feel like, oh, well, if I'm not going today to the gym, it's like, oh, it's okay. Like if I can't work out my best, I'm not going to go to the gym. No, I'll go. Even if I do lift light, do it light. Even if I'm not doing high intensity cardio, do cardio zone 2. At least I'm doing something, and trust the process and keep consistent. In this case, consistency triumph over a sprinting excellence, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I feel like there are certain things in life, especially the older that we get, I think I realize that a lot of these things are a long haul thing. It's a long journey, and it's the journey that matters, and the outcome or the end point is not what you think it is. It's what you make of it at whatever point you want.
Yeah.
And most of the time, success is defined by whoever lives the longest.
And in that quality of living, right? And
Yeah.
I think sometimes everyone thinks there's a there.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
Right here, right now.
Like I want to, so two things, right? One is I want to optimize everything that I can in my capacity and capabilities in the present, but at the same time, keeping in mind that I also want to be consistent enough to not stress myself out in the short term, so that I can keep doing this current thing for the rest of my life and keep compounding over time.
Yeah. Do you write things down, like what you eat or workout program? Like,
Yes.
how do you do it?
I use MyFitnessPal to track all my macros. I think Chronometer is also another good app. I have an app that Jay Phrygia uses, Ketones, that he put the training program on there. I can track the sets, the weights.
What's it called?
Kahunas.io.
Like your balls? Cajonas? Cajones?
I know, right? It
What?
sounds like that, right?
What is-
Kahunas.
Yeah, way to try to say that. Okay. All right. And you can
It's my
track,
accent.
your reps, your weight.
Yeah, I can show
What's
you.
the other one? In person, the one that you were showing me?
InBody.
InBody. That's
InBody,
right.
you can get the InBody measuring your body composition.
But if you're a self-torturer, do not get InBody. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Wow.
You get all the workout and the videos that show how to work out.
And then so now people will be watching people to work out.
Yeah. I mean, so that you know your form.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, you were saying.
No, I just think it's interesting because I do see someone like you who's really trying to excel and also depart from their given lifestyle. People say, "Oh, my family, I inherited their genetics. That's why." It's like, nope, we've all inherited the lifestyle. So you're a really good example of somebody who has really broken away from, in a conscious way, from the lifestyle, because you realize that there was some ends to some of those in your family health history that is dangerous. So I just think it's a really powerful reminder to people that we can not only continue to improve forever, but we are not given a sentence based on our, and that means for everything, right? Like you could have come from a family of where there was a lot of destruction or, alcohol abuse or whatever it is. And it's like, we really have these opportunities, but we have to be proactive. And you're an example of somebody who's very proactive. How do you define, it's funny, I was just recently interviewed by somebody, and I was talking about being driven and disciplined, and but I had a governor on success, because all the people I saw who were really successful, the collateral damage in their life was a disaster, their family, their relationships, whatever. And she said to me, well, maybe what you were trying to manifest actually was the family and the relationships, and the work and everything is the thing you do over on the side. And so for you, I'm curious, like, you're doing all of this work and traveling and meeting people and taking care of yourself. What is, for you, what is success?
That's a good question. I think for me, success would be happy and healthy mentally and physically first and foremost, myself, because only with that foundation can I do everything else. So same thing with you. If you are healthy and happy, and then you have your family, you can do all the rest. You can have your podcast, you can do your work very, very efficiently. You don't have to stress, you have time management. Everything comes along after that. But if I am sacrificing myself for my work, even if I can be very successful, I can be the top scientist in the world, I'm slowly deteriorating inside because of the overloading of stress, then I can't even enjoy the success that I've built.
Right. Yeah. So that's a hard one for people to get to.
And it's hard because sometimes you have to look at yourself as like, okay, this great opportunity. Recently I saw like Elon Musk is, talking about around the clock work, and sleep deprivation is cool again, that sort of thing. And I'm like, how long can you last? Right?
Yeah, the wheels come off eventually.
Yeah.
Off something.
Yeah. Off something, exactly. So if I can see like there's a great opportunity that I have to sacrifice for, then I'll start weighing the pros and cons, right? How long do I have to go? If it's a few days, okay, fine, like let's get this. Or if it's a few years, I'm like, will I be alive by then?
Right. Yeah, is it worth it?
Yeah, is it worth it?
Yeah. Because
I think coming back to perspective, life can be very short. Like looking at my cousin, she's young, and my late dad, he passed away in 63. Half brother passed away 40 plus, heart disease as well. I could go like that, and if I do, I want to live a life I don't regret, and I can look back and smile and live and know that I've lived my life happily, without regret, and I can go happily.
Yeah. I don't expect you to know, but I was wondering, with ADHD, is there sort of a gender dominance of more male because of certain hormone things? And do we know if hyperactivity is, found more in boys than girls? Do we know anything about that?
I think we do know. I can't remember on top of my head.
Okay, fair enough.
But
we can't be an expert in all things.
I know.
I know you're going to try, but I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
All right. Latt Mansor, thank you for your time. And please remind people all the places that they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on all social media and on LinkedIn. Sorry, let me do that again. You can find me on social media on TikTok, Instagram at Latt Mansor, LattMansor. And for Ketones, it's ketone.com or at Ketone.
There we go. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for spending some time with me. Hopefully you got something out of it. If you did, feel free to share it with your friends, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, I want to hear from you. Tell me what's working, what's resonating with you, and how you're getting it done. Keep going.